And today we've come here to discover how to become a connected enterprise using Jira Align, the Atlassian platform for agility, and the SAFe framework. And for this presentation, please welcome Dean McNeil, our head of Agile practice at Variantis. Over to you, Dean.
Great, thank you so much, Anthony. I am happy to be here to discuss how to build a connected enterprise with a special emphasis on what we consider to be the 4 key dimensions of the connected enterprise and how we go about building it from the ground up. So let's take a look at our topics for today. We're first going to level set on what the 5 levels of scale are. We're going to take a look at those from the top down, so we're all on the same page as to what we're talking about and what level we're trying to reach in the organization. Then we'll discuss the 4 dimensions themselves and the critical role they play in building your connected enterprise. We'll then get into how to do that from the ground up, what that entails. We'll take a look at how a couple of the tools out there support those 4 key dimensions, and those will be advanced roadmaps for Jira and Jira Align. Then we'll briefly get into some top tips for scaling Agile with Jira Align, and we'll have our live Q&A session. So first, what are the 5 levels of scale? Let's start from the top down here. The enterprise. That is where strategy gets set and governed. And when we're talking about people here, these would be folks like executives, perhaps the PMO, finance, etc. The next level down would be the portfolio level. That is critical. That is the level where strategy gets mapped to execution. And we're talking about people like portfolio managers. This would be a sub PMO perhaps within the organization under the top level PMO. This could also be your business owners for the various, let's call them initiatives at this point. There's another level, and this one is considered optional, and it's called the solution level, where solutions are coordinated. So 1 or more solutions may exist within a portfolio, and this would be folks like solution train engineers, if you're following SAFe, solution architects, solution management, etc. And then we come to what I consider to be the sweet spot for Agile at scale, which is the program level, where work gets organized and planned. These are teams of Agile teams. Generally, a portfolio consists of 1 or more programs. Of course, there is that optional solution level there, as you see. Now, the program level is going to have folks like release train engineers, if you're following SAFe, perhaps Agile program managers, and critically product managers, that higher level product owner. And those exist at the teams, of course, and that is where the real work gets done, where the rubber meets the road. Those are your dev teams. You may have quality teams and service delivery teams as well. So with that look at the 5 levels, we're now prepared to discuss the 4 key dimensions. And we start with people, and then we have the work, time, and outcomes dimensions. So the key here is that each level of scale that we previously saw, we've got people delivering work over periods of time to produce business outcomes. And that last one is key, as you know, because we all want business results from our Agile initiatives and from how our tool set supports our Agile practices. So to build the connected enterprise, we're going to start with the foundation level of teams, and then we're going to step up to the program level. That's where we focus on organizing around value. Then we're going to extend up to that portfolio level and take a quick look at how advanced roadmaps and Jira Align support that conceptually. And then we're going to top it off and show where the strategic themes fit in, and lastly, that full picture of the connected enterprise. So starting from the foundation, notice we've got the people, work, time, and outcomes dimensions, and then we also show the tool set that supports them. So in this case, Jira Software is the leading team-level Agile tool. And so generally, to lay a very firm and strong foundation, we're going to have teams delivering stories within sprints to meet sprint goals, using a standardized, scalable Jira configuration. So that would get us a very strong foundation on which to build. Leveling up next to the program level. Still, Jira software is critical here. Now we've got our teams grouped into teams of teams, also known as programs, to deliver larger work items, generally product features or Jira epics. And they're delivering these as a coordinated team of teams. And it's important that they follow a common sprint cadence so they're speaking the same language for their tight coordination. So for example, if team A is the primary team to deliver a given feature in the second quarter and team B is assisting, team B could communicate quite clearly, okay, we're going to have our story done by sprint 2 for you. So you could start integrating into your feature in sprint 3 and you'll be able to deliver in sprint 4, that kind of thing. So they're on the same numerical sequence of sprints, okay? Moving to the next level is where we now begin to get our feet wet at the portfolio level. And at this stage, we like to introduce advanced roadmaps because that will kind of serve the purpose of being a stepping stone along the way to the connected enterprise. So you see here, we've now got the portfolio people dimension there, along with portfolio epics, the generic term for the work item at that level. Now, those could also be known as initiatives or anything really that you want to call them within your context. So notice that we've got the full set of dimensions at the team level. At the program, we've got people in work, and at portfolio, we've got people in work. It's a pretty good place to start, and a lot of organizations get quite far with this setup. But eventually, we find that this particular setup really requires another level up. And that's when we introduce Jira Align. So notice there that advanced roadmaps is no longer necessary to reach that portfolio level. So we could still use it though at the team and program level for different visualizations and things. So we keep it in our tool set. But with Jira Align, notice now we've got plenty of room to grow, and we've got critically the time and outcomes dimensions available. So now for team, program, and portfolio, we've got the people delivering work over periods of time to produce outcomes. And these outcomes at the program level, for example, could be your program objectives if you're following SAFe, or if not, you could have program level OKRs. And at that portfolio epic level, which spans multiple business quarters typically, you've got higher level objectives. Those might even be annual OKRs at this level, depending again on your context. Now, as I mentioned, Jira Align gives you that room to grow. Notice how it extends pretty far up. And now we could go back and, if needed, add that optional solution level. Now, this is helpful for organizations who are developing the most complex systems of systems. So just like at the people dimension where a program is a team of teams, well, a solution is a program of programs. And they're not just coordinating to develop complex systems, but really systems of systems. So it's helpful for things like military and aerospace. The corresponding work item at that level, in SAFe at least, is known as a capability. So we show that here as one of the standard terms. So that's our work item hierarchy if you look at that orange stack, from portfolio epics to capabilities, down to features or Jira epics, to stories, and you could even have, of course, smaller level things like subtasks attached to the stories in Jira if you choose. So that's a pretty full picture right there of what you can get once you introduce Jira Align into the organization. But then you still have room to grow to get that fully connected enterprise. So let's take a look at what's next. You could then introduce your strategic themes. Now in Jira Align, those represent the largest level of work item. So they would be comprised of multiple portfolio epics, which are comprised of multiple capabilities and or features, which are comprised of multiple stories. The corresponding time dimension is just like a program increment is a group of sprints. Well, you could group your program increments or quarterly increments, again, whatever your terminology is in your organization. You could group those into strategic snapshots. Now, these are great for getting a time dimension of, say, from 1 to 3 years out, potentially even longer, again, depending on your context. And the outcomes there are really the highest level outcomes in your organization. Generically, those are your top goals. They could be your enterprise OKRs. Again, depending on your context, it's quite configurable. So next up from there, we are really putting the roof, so to speak. Whoop, I kind of went back. There we go. To that top level enterprise. Now, to cap this off, Jira Align has a strategy room, and that's where you set your mission, vision, and values, your real highest level strategy. I should also mention there's a room for each level as well. So, from the program room is a key one for program level execution, for example. So those function as a dashboard, if you will, to bring key information in for that level of scale. And of course, they're completely configurable, and you can move the different items around and what have you. So you get exactly the information you need for real-time decision-making support. That's really where Jira Align excels. It's that system of record for all 4 dimensions, connected both laterally and vertically. So it's really a great one-stop shop for all of this information. Now, once you reach this connected enterprise state, you've connected strategy with execution. You may be experiencing some of the great results like faster time to market. You'll be able to, of course, visualize your flow of value using all of the great visualizations within Jira Align. Over 165 reports out of the box. So it is a vast platform. So let's now take a look at, now conceptually we've built this connected enterprise. Well, now what are the top tips for scaling Agile with Jira Align so we could have that connected enterprise supported by this leading Agile platform? So let's take a look at these dimensions now: people, practices, and tools. So people, for one, you need to have your engaged leadership. We found that this is often not an issue. Leadership generally is quite engaged, and that's good, because if you look at the annual State of Agile survey, for example, it's pretty important to pay attention to things like your organizational culture and things like general organizational resistance to change, and importantly, inadequate leadership support and sponsorship. Those are 3 major impediments to successfully scaling Agile. So with your engaged leadership team, you could have attention on those and make sure that those impediments are not happening in your context. So the leaders really lead the change, they embrace the change, they walk the talk, etc. The second one here is internal coaches. Again, for 3 years in a row, if you're looking at the annual State of Agile report, respondents to that report have designated internal coaches as the top tip for success with scaling Agile. Again, the #1 tip is having internal coaches. We're talking Agile coaches here of all shapes and sizes, from enterprise Agile coaches to program level release train engineers, for example, if you're following SAFe, down to Scrum Masters, the team level coaches. And the importance here is that it really reduces your dependency on external consultants, and it really fosters your internal center of excellence, if you will, if you wish to call it that. So it's going to reduce your dependence on outside firms and create your own internal sustainable Agile capability. So make that investment in having coaches. And we have seen that time and time again as a key differentiator between organizations who are able to successfully scale Agile and those who fall short. Lastly, it's your Atlassian solution partner in the people dimension. Now, unlike Jira software, which you could purchase on a credit card and implement on your own, Jira Align is sort of a different animal altogether. It's a sizable undertaking to implement it. Now, if you haven't previously worked with an Atlassian solution partner, you could find one at atlassian.com/partners. The partner is going to guide you through workshops to discover what is most important for your business and how Jira Align will support your goals. And then with that understanding, they're going to make sure that the platform is configured to support your highest ranking business goals so that you achieve the best outcomes. Let's next turn to, well, let's take a look at how Valiantis approaches what we call a program launch. Because speaking of Atlassian solution partners, we'd be happy to be your partner if you chose us. Just at a high level, we choose to focus on implementing a program at a time. It's a modular approach to building that connected enterprise. Now, we could implement as many programs as needed, of course, but it's important to start small and then build upon that win. In fact, if you've read Leading Change by John Kotter, that's the approach towards shifting the culture within the organization. Because when the teams experience those quick wins, then their energy shifts. And they actually move then from merely doing Agile to being Agile. So it's key to get those teams of teams onboarded in Jira Align, trained, and then we're there with them through their ceremonies, regardless of the framework, and we'll speak about that as well. So if you're doing backlog refinement, quarterly planning and execution, we're there to support you with the tool so that you get the value out of the tool that you need. So if you just take a quick look from the top to the bottom, it's essentially from discovery, through that implementation, through the training, there to support you with your ceremonies, and then making sure you get that value check at the end. And the outcome is really going to be this picture that we saw earlier, where we've introduced Jira Align. We've got all 4 dimensions for team, program, and portfolio level. So that's our program launch. And like I said, we do that per program in the organization. So we also help you organize around programs if you're not currently set up that way. So that would entail taking your teams and organizing them into teams of teams focused on value delivery. That is going to reduce dependencies, which you can see within the tool, and the tool could help guide this process, by the way. And that way we can structure your programs, help you structure your programs so that way you have minimal external dependencies and you improve your flow, you improve your throughput, you get your faster time to market. So let's go now to practices, just real quick. Of course, we all know about Scrum and Kanban. They're the most popular team level practices. But now, at some point, your organization may essentially outgrow these because they work great for a handful of product development teams, perhaps even syncing up via a scrum of scrums, for example. But once you get past a certain point and you want to scale Agile either outward, laterally across your organization, or upward, and you want to tackle bigger pieces of work, it's very helpful to have a scaling framework because those kind of solve all of those connection points and coordination problems for you. They're essentially out of the box. So there are plenty to choose from, and they're all supported by Jira Align, whether it's the leading framework, which is the scaled Agile framework known as SAFe, or if you practice large-scale Scrum, which is known as LESS, or disciplined Agile delivery, known as DAD, or Scrum at scale, or a custom framework, or a combination of the above, it could be configured within the tool. The key thing is to pick a framework and stick with it for a while, because generally you're going to pick one that's backed by case studies, and you want those same results. And we'll take a look at some of those results in a bit. So next up, let's go to tools, our final area for top tips for scaling Agile with Jira Align. So what we begin with is analyzing and optimizing your existing Jira data, because we're assuming we're going to be connecting Jira Align here to your Jira software. That is the most popular thing to do. Now, by the way, you could also integrate with Trello and other tools as well, but let's focus here on Jira software. So it's important to make sure that that Jira data is consistent and scalable before we connect it to Jira Align. because we want to maximize our success. Once we do so, we could connect it up to Jira Align, and again, following our generally our best practice and approach, which is onboard one program at a time. And program as a team of teams is generally up to 125 people, and you could get your first one onboarded pretty quickly and get them experiencing the wins, so that way the success could be scaled throughout your organization. Now, just as a case in point, one of our successful clients followed this approach with their first Agile release train, because they were following SAFe, so that's what their program terminology was, and their first business quarter was quite a success with that, and then within the year they added 6 more arts. And in that first year, they experienced a 33% faster time to market. So that shows you the how that approach supports successful wins. And then, by the way, they doubled the quantity of arts in year 2 and sped up some more, and went up from 33 to 37% faster. And in year 3, they went up to 45% faster time to market. So when you connect Jira Align to Jira software, and by the way, all of these images, as you might be able to see there, are from Scaling Agile with Jira Align, written by myself and my colleague Aslam Kader. What you see here is Jira software on the left, the Jira connector in the middle, and Jira Align on the right. This really shows you how everything is tied together between the two systems. Of course, we're not going to go through this right now, but at a high level, let's just take a look at the work dimension. That's the orange color. So if we're talking about work items in Jira software, that's the system of record for your team level items. So stories and below. So right here, we're showing stories and bugs. They flow over to Jira Align as stories and defects. This is a slight out of the box terminology change there. And then above stories, you've got your Jira epics. That's the program level item that comes over as features. And of course, you could change that terminology in Jira Align. This is just the standard terminology here. Now notice that that's the extent of the work items in Jira software. Everything bigger than a Jira epic, the system of record, is now Jira Align. So that would be capabilities if you have the solution level, portfolio epics, themes. Now, although they live in Jira Align, critical information about those higher level work items can flow back down into Jira via the why details, as you see there. That gives the development teams in Jira software the context for the work they're doing. So no matter what, even the smallest task attached to a story that flows up to a Jira epic, they could see the reason for it and how it ties to the highest level corporate strategy, because this may be a really important Jira epic attached to a portfolio epic in Jira software with the best weighted shortest job first score, for example, and with the best business case for it, etc. That's tied to even a higher level strategic theme that's critical to the mission of the company. So they could get all of that information right there at a glance. And it really empowers your teams to know the why. It's just a critical piece to the puzzle, and it helps with engagement, for example. And we are going to see that on the next slide when we talk about the payoff for doing this. Why undergo this process of building a connected enterprise with the Jira Align platform? Well, these results are taken from the Scaled Agile framework, but it's quite similar what you're going to get regardless of the framework you choose. You're going to have better engagement. You're going to have faster time to market, higher quality, and greater productivity. So that's the payoff we're all after. Those are the results. And as a case in point, one of the larger Jira Align implementations, at least at the time, we're talking around 2016, was AT&T. And this is a quote from Candice Kelly, who's in their Agile Center of Excellence. And she speaks to how the platform allowed AT&T to connect their strategy and execution. and to get their teams engaged in the strategy. Remember, the why is critical, and that was essential for their transformation. And I was there at the time, and this is another slide that Candace presented at the SAFe Summit in 2018 with a lot of good stats here. This was in year 2. They had 7 arts launched in year 1, and then another 7 in year 2. And again, I mentioned earlier, this was the case study that I was referring to when I said to start small and build upon that success, because they started with just 1 art. And then by the end of year 1, they had 7. And that was when they experienced a 33% faster time to market. And they continued building from there. Now, some of these stats speak about cost savings, and that is really empowered by the tool, because when all your work is connected in one platform, you could spot redundancies, you could spot orphaned work that's not connected to strategy. So you could essentially put a stop to anything that's not important enough to the organization to be, mapped up to higher level strategy. So there are a lot of factors that come into play here, even using the dependency views to restructure the arts, which did happen in year 1. So it was a great experience to have been there, and a lot of the experiences we've had along the way have been documented and put into this book, as I mentioned earlier, Scaling Agile with Jira Align. So for more information, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn. You could check out the book. We are very grateful that the book has made a bit of an impact, and it's there to serve you. It's there to guide you. We worked on it throughout the lockdown of 2020, and we wanted something good to come out of all of that. And it was a great opportunity to sort of pay it forward, to put our wisdom and the wisdom that was passed on to us from Atlassian and Jira and AgileCraft before them into a book, the first of its kind. And so you have that available to you as well. And we are now ready for the Q&A session.